It was just past noon when I got back home from a long night shift. Being a detective for the city police force, I'd grown used to unpredictable hours and high-stress cases, but nothing prepared me for the chaos waiting in my quiet suburban neighborhood. I had just slipped into a t-shirt and sweatpants and settled in with a sandwich when I heard the creak of my front door. No knock, no doorbell, just the unmistakable squeak of it opening. I grabbed my Glock from the counter instinctively, not because I expected danger, but because old habits die hard. I moved silently, my training kicking in. As I approached the hallway that led to the front door, that's when I saw her. Mid-50s, short-cut dyed blonde hair, big sunglasses, clipboard in one hand, phone in the other. It was her, the woman everyone on the street referred to as HOA Karen. Her real name? Lisa something, but her reputation preceded her. She was known for reporting people for lawn-length violations, trash cans left out 10 minutes too long, and even once for someone parking slightly off-center in their driveway. But this? Walking right into someone's home? Hello? She called as if she owned the place. I just need to take a quick look. You've been ignoring HOA notices. I stepped into the hallway, staying just out of her line of sight. I wasn't ready to blow my cover yet. She moved deeper into the living room, mumbling something about unapproved renovations. My walls weren't even painted. What was she talking about? Finally, I stepped forward. "Ma'am?" I said sharply. She jumped, spinning around, nearly dropping her clipboard. You can't sneak up on people like that," she said, eyes wide. "You just entered my home without knocking, without permission." "That's trespassing," I replied calmly, badge now clipped visibly to my belt. "Also, I'm a cop." Her face turned ghostly white. She took a step back, stammering something unintelligible. I didn't know, it's just, you're part of the community and the HOA has rules. And breaking and entering isn't one of them?" I pulled out my phone and began recording. This was going to go by the book. If she had the audacity to walk into a cop's home without invitation, who knew what she did to the others? She tried to explain, to justify, but she was clearly nervous. Good, she should be. And she had no idea what was coming next. Karen's hands trembled as she clutched her clipboard to her chest like a shield. The moment I revealed I was a cop, the shift in her posture was instant. She knew she'd messed up. But like all good Karens, she didn't back down quietly. "I didn't break in," she insisted. The door was unlocked. "That's basically an open invitation." I raised an eyebrow. "That's not how the law works." I kept my phone pointed toward her, the camera app recording every word. She kept glancing at it nervously, clearly aware this wasn't going to end with a simple warning. She tried to switch tactics. "You didn't respond to the HOA's paint color survey. I had to verify if you were making unauthorized changes. We've sent multiple notices." "I've lived here for 6 months," I replied. "Never got a single notice." "You stepped into my home uninvited, unannounced, and unauthorized. And you're going to answer for that." She shifted her weight, eyes darting to the door like she was about to bolt. I stepped aside to block her path. Not so fast. At that point, I called it in. "Dispatch, this is Detective Rayner. I've got an HOA representative who just trespassed into my home without consent. Send a marked unit for processing. I've got video and she's still on the premises." The dispatcher confirmed. Karen's mouth fell open. "Processing? You're arresting me?" "I'm just doing my job." "You're not a cop, Karen," I snapped. "You're part of a private association. You don't have the right to enter anyone's home, especially without a warrant, consent, or probable cause." She tried to appeal to emotion next. "This neighborhood is falling apart. If I don't enforce the standards, who will? We can't have people like you thinking you can just—" She stopped herself, realizing she was about to say something worse. But I heard enough. "People like me?" Oh, she was digging her grave deeper. A few minutes later, a black and white cruiser rolled up outside. Officers Miller and Desai got out, surprised to see me holding a clipboard and a flustered suburban vigilante. "Karen Mitchell?" Officer Miller asked. "You're being detained for criminal trespassing." Karen sputtered in disbelief. "You're arresting me? But I'm the HOA president." I crossed my arms. "Doesn't mean you're above the law." They cuffed her, read her rights, and escorted her to the car. She wailed the entire way, insisting she'd sue everyone involved, especially me. I watched as they drove away. The neighbors were peeking out through their windows now, no doubt having a field day. But little did I know, this incident was just the beginning of something bigger. By the next morning, the whole block knew what had happened. Karen's arrest wasn't just neighborhood gossip, it was wildfire. Everyone had a story about her. Someone's dog barked too loud, and she threatened to call animal control. Another family said she fined them for having unapproved patio furniture. But breaking into a cop's house? That topped everything. I didn't plan on digging deeper into the HOA, but Karen had made it personal. I began by reviewing the so-called notices she claimed to have sent me. When I contacted the HOA's official email, no response. So, I headed to city records to see what was actually on file. Turns out Karen had been operating off the books for months. The official HOA board was inactive. No meetings, no elected positions, nothing properly filed. But somehow, she had created a fake sense of authority and had even issued violation fines that never made it to the association's bank account. Translation, she'd been pocketing the money. The real kicker? There were residents, elderly folks, mostly, who had paid her hundreds in fines out of fear. All without ever questioning her authority. I couldn't let this go. I started interviewing neighbors, collecting receipts, and pulling emails she'd sent from her HOAPresidentCommunityMail.net address, which, by the way, was a Gmail account she'd made herself. One woman, Mrs. Franklin, from 3 houses down, said she paid Karen $350 for repainting her door. The wrong shade of beige. She said it was an HOA-approved color violation, Mrs. Franklin whispered. I didn't want trouble, so I just paid. I had enough. I compiled everything into a formal case file. Witness statements, evidence of fake notices, fraudulent charges, and of course, the video of her trespassing. I handed it off to my department's fraud investigation unit. Karen was in deeper trouble than she thought. But of course, she didn't take it quietly. 2 days after her release on bail, I came home to find an anonymous letter shoved under my door. You think you're smart, but you messed with the wrong person. No signature, no return address, but it didn't take a genius to figure out where it came from. I set the letter aside and smiled. Karen had no idea what she had just triggered. I wasn't just a detective, I was also someone who didn't back down. What started as a trespassing case was turning into a full-blown investigation into HOA fraud and intimidation, and I was just getting started. I wasn't surprised when I saw Karen standing outside my house the next morning. No clipboard, no sunglasses, just her, arms crossed, glaring as if she was about to conduct another unauthorized inspection. But this time, I didn't open the door. I let my home surveillance cameras record everything. She started yelling. You think you're some kind of hero? You're not! I am this neighborhood! I stayed quiet and watched through the peephole. She screamed more, threatening lawsuits, vowing to make sure I'd regret the day I moved in. Typical Karen behavior. But now it was harassment, and all of it was being documented. That same afternoon, I received a call from Detective Alvarez, the lead investigator from our fraud unit. Rayner, he said, we went through the bank records. Your HOA president has been collecting fines into a personal account for over a year. Over $14,000 stolen from residents. I already knew it was bad, but hearing the number made it real. We're issuing a warrant, he added. You want in on the arrest? Absolutely, I said without hesitation. The next morning, I put my badge back on and rode along with the arrest team. When we showed up at Karen's house, a meticulously landscaped suburban fortress, she answered the door in a bathrobe and curlers. Again? She scoffed. You people are ridiculous. Karen Mitchell, Alvarez said. Stepping forward, you're under arrest for fraud, impersonating an official, harassment, and misappropriation of community funds. What? This is harassment! She screamed. He's behind this! She pointed directly at me. I stepped forward and calmly held up the folder of evidence we'd compiled. You did this to yourself. She fought, she cried, she cursed. But this time, there were no excuses left, no fake authority to hide behind. She was placed in cuffs again and loaded into the cruiser, this time for real crimes. The fallout was swift. The city assigned a legal receiver to take over the HOA. The fines Karen had issued were voided, and residents were reimbursed from a restitution fund. A neighborhood meeting was held, where I explained everything that had happened, and people finally felt free to speak up. It felt like justice wasn't just served, it was delivered to every doorstep on the street. A week later, Mrs. Franklin baked me a pie. Another neighbor dropped off a thank you card signed by half the block. I didn't do it for the gratitude, but I appreciated the gesture. Karen was gone. The HOA was cleaned up. And our street? Peaceful for the first time in years. All because she chose the wrong house to enter without knocking.